We all experience challenging and difficult situations in life. In the face of these complexities, it is not always clear how to respond, what to do, or what to avoid. It's easy to get stuck in these moments and stop moving forward in life. Wholeness with Naomi is a program that explores our experiences with such encounters and provides tools and strategies that can enable anyone facing these hardships to continue walking their path in life. We can't wait to meet you on this journey. Tune in, your life is about to change for the better.
Welcome to our program, Wholeness with Naomi, where we talk about difficult and sometimes different situations that come our way. More importantly, we talk about some of the tools that you can use as you navigate in these difficult and different parts you may be finding yourself in. Over the last episode, Dr. Makoni was sharing with us on suicide ideation, and he said that is the intent for one to take their life away. Today on the show, I want to talk about when one has actually committed suicide, the impact that it has upon the family, on the community, and how we are able to navigate around such an unfortunate and difficult situation that we may be finding ourselves in. Welcome, Dr. Makoni, to our episode today.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you, viewers.
So today we're talking about suicide, where one is actually committed suicide. And we want to look at the impact that has upon the family and the community. Can you just take us through that?
Yes. Suicide by nature is traumatic. So before we even go to the society, it's the relatives, the friends, the family, the associates around the deceased. Depending on how the method one has taken their life, a lot can be violent. A child who walks into a room and sees their brother hanging, that picture remains in their mind for life. Picking up a dead body in front of a building 7 floors down, it's shattered. Anyone who sees that, it's traumatic for life. Under a bus, a train, or even seemingly not so violent situations, but the effect of chemicals, that is the drug, that is the poison, that is the pills on the person, it's not helpful at all. So it's the emotional impact on those around that life. But also socially, we have a lot of beliefs that come in which create stigma.
Okay.
And these beliefs are across the board. In our context, for example, if a person dies by suicide, everyone is angry. I'm sure we have seen some of the clips that go around. They are not buried. They are not given the rights of burial as somebody who has died naturally, so to speak.
There are many cultural practices around that as well,
which stigmatize the family that has remained. But also in their thinking is to say, let's drive away the spirit that's killing people. So they don't get into the house, their clothes are not shared. It's you die, you're buried there and there, wherever you have. That was the original. Now we can't do that, but you can pick up the body from the house, a little bit of cleaning if it happens at all. But you drive to a rural setting, you drive to straight to the burial site. Nothing is done, is said. At times they don't even invite a preacher to that space. They are so angry. Their clothes or whatever, especially their personal effects, they are taken and they are thrown into that grave as well. All that is affecting emotionally, it's traumatizing the family. We need to review some of these practices. It's death. That is what's happening. How one has died ought not be the issue. Then, of course, there are then the social issues that remain around this. Is it a police situation? So processing the legalities of it can be a trauma for the family that remains. Then, of course, most people ask themselves, what did I do wrong? What did we not do right?
And that is the big question. Imagine if it's a parent that a child has committed suicide and they're thinking, how could I have not seen that my child was struggling?
Yep. Only if we had not argued the way we did. Only if I had not asked them to do this chore the way I did. But remember, the last non-event is only a trigger. Something has been happening for a long time. Hardly does it happen that one is in a tight position and immediately they kill themselves. Something has been happening for some time. It could be a day, it could be 2, it could be decades, but the trigger is not the cause. So the fact that the last non-engagement was an argument over $1 and they kill themselves, an argument over a relationship with a boy, an argument over a relationship with a side chick, the fact that you didn't receive enough money that month, these are just triggers. They are pushing you over the edge, but things have been happening all along. So us who remain, this is where we need help to process the grief in context. What questions do we have? What do they mean? How can we help you see that death is death?
Okay.
There are many people who have attempted and they have lived through. Yes, God does have his time, but at times he does not force us into life. If we push that way, he can't force us. He will let you die for sure.
Okay.
So the immediate people who are involved with that person have those questions around them. What could you have done better? What could you have done to prevent? Very little you could do.
And I think as you're sharing, Dr. Makoni, this is something which is quite key and important. Where death has happened in the family by suicide, usually we want to point fingers and say, who was responsible? Who caused this? But from what Dr. Makoni is sharing, what happened like the last event, that's just a trigger. There were issues that were brewing underneath for months, for weeks, and sometimes even for years that were not dealt with. And that is what pushed the person to actually come to a place where they eventually committed suicide. It's not usually the incident that happened beforehand, but this is something that was happening over a long period of time, which was unaddressed in that particular person.
Technically, let's not look for what caused, because you won't find it. It's a conglomeration of events over a long period. Some of them have got nothing to do with you. So what we want to focus on, how do we support those who have remained now that they are in this situation? Now, as I said, some of these issues have got spiritual connotations, especially from African religious traditions. We need to find out. We need to make sure that we clean the spirit of suicide from the family. If that's what's going to bring them peace, let them do it. But half the time, it only arouses more dust. It causes more problems. You hear more stories of, so-and-so did that. If it's a husband who has died, in most instances, the widow has been left now, is on the block because you were not handling our son well. Vice versa. If it's a wife who has died, then the husband is on the block. You were cruel to our person. It only arouses a lot more wars than we realize. The point is someone has died. The method that has been used is of taking one's life. Now, how do we support those who have remained? There's very little we are going to do by knowing that they were fighting for money, they were fighting for a relationship, they were fighting for freedom. There's very little we can do with that. Some people do leave messages, letters.
I actually wanted to go there, Dr. Makoni. There are certain people that when they die, they leave letters. Are there good indicators to actually tell us that this is what happened to this person? How can we treat those letters?
People who leave letters are attempting to relieve you of any responsibility. They're simply saying, don't worry, this is my cause. I did it, I have chosen to. However, some will say, I let you down, I'm guilty, I'm ashamed, I can't face you. Some will say, yes, it's my decision because my wife did, my husband did, my child did, my sekuru did. All the same, they're simply saying, this is why I'm doing this. But that's not explaining to us the pain they've gone through. It helps with some answers. How did we get here? So if we have that, what we then need to do is, okay, are these real issues? Are these objective? Are these facts? What is it that mom can do in helping the siblings who have remained? What is it that the spouse who has been left can do to make sure that however they were relating with the deceased does not spill over to children, to the next person? Because usually if I'm an angry person, I'm not only angry in my marriage.
You're angry everywhere.
I can be angry everywhere else. So you help that person to know how to work with their anger such that it doesn't disrupt other people's lives. So those who leave letters do help in making sure that responsibility is gone with them. They're absolving everyone else from having caused that death. I did this because this is where I was. But it still remains, we have work to do to support the deceased, the survivors in that situation.
Thank you, Dr. Makoni, for this sharing. Shiwas, let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Welcome back, viewers, to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. Before we went on a short break, Dr. Makoni was sharing with us on the subject of letters, where someone has died by suicide and they've left a letter. From your sharing, Dr. Makoni, you were indicating that we also need to take these letters with the intent that the person who has deceased had when they were writing that, where we don't need to point fingers at another person, but we come to a level or place where we understand some of the things that happened. But there are some, Dr. Makoni, that actually do point fingers and say, I passed away or I died by suicide because I was having challenges with either my stepmom, my uncle, my father, and they actually are pointing fingers that they are the reason for my dying. What could you say to that?
Remember, the driving force for wanting to take life is a person's perception that there's no other way.
Okay.
Life can't happen the way I want it to happen. So it could be true. Stepmother was not nice. It could be true. Dad was not nice. They chose. They were not in their sound mind at that point for them to take their own life. So what we can do then is this that has been said. Is there something I can do as a step-parent, as a brother, as a sister, as a wife, as a husband who has been left, to make sure that I live in a different manner? But it's not for us then to take this as God's word, you caused it. No one causes me to be angry. I get angry when situations come. Therefore, it's not about what those around us have done. It was their choice to take their life. Us who are around, maybe we can learn that, the way we handle pressure, the way we say things, the way then let's work at that. But not to then take that word as that's the final word. You are a bad person. We only worsen life. We might get another dead body if we are not careful that way.
Thank you so much for that sharing. Where we talk about the subject of suicide and we're looking at surviving family members, this is something which is quite heavy. And if this is something that you've experienced in your own family, you understand the heaviness that it carries and stigma that surrounds, especially the family that's involved. Let us come to a place where we uphold the family and we look for ways to be able to support the family. That even includes some of the songs that we sing at the funeral. Many times I think we find comfort where we point fingers and say this person is the cause. But from what Dr. Makoni is sharing, everyone makes a choice. It could be what they were going through, but we all come to a place where we make a choice to choose. Do I want to continue with life? Do I want to take my life? And one makes that decision in a place where they're in a difficult moment and that is seeming like that is the only way out. One is irrational when they're making that decision. But as a community, let's come together to support the family that is grieving, that is crying in a space where there are no answers, where they're trying to understand exactly what has happened. Do take us through some of the ways that a family can be supported, Dr. Makoni, that has someone that has committed suicide.
Grief support is very important. And grief support starts with the announcement that there is death, and it's death by suicide. For us believers, it's a call for pastors, it's a call for denominations. I appreciate there's a lot of movement. But I know there was a time, and there are still some inclinations where, they don't wear their uniform. We are speaking something here that's going to damage those who are bereaved. Or we don't get a fully ordained pastor. So maybe a lay leader is the one who conducts the burial. Or we don't do a prayer. We don't gather to have a night vigil as we normally do. So we withdraw certain customs around burial because it was suicide. So you see that a lot of people now would rather not tell you how the person dies because they don't want to go through that. That's the beginning of our support system. How do we work with the family in supporting them through the funeral? Then thereafter, remember, generally speaking, there is stigma. So you see that they are left alone. We don't celebrate that funeral, that death. We don't celebrate that grief. So there are no nyaradzos. Where nyaradzos are done, for this particular case, it's not done. Or no one ever follows up with that family. And in some instances, even if we are believers, we almost feel like going to that house. Whatever took their life will come into me and I'll also kill myself.
I've heard about that as well.
Now, all that is only adding fuel to a fire that's already burning on this family through stigma. We are condemning them, but they didn't do anything. They are suffering the loss of a loved one. So we need to embrace them like anybody else. They are not a threat to anyone. So it's grief support. In most instances, I recommend go for professional grief coaching. A lot is happening. A lot is going to be challenging you in how you process that death. Different from a death that has happened naturally. You are left, it's more sudden and more devastating than even if it's a car accident. Because here there's something about it which you're asking, left behind. I think there are books like that, and they describe how by suicide one has got all these tons of questions above the normal questions we ask whenever there is death. So you need to be given that space. Usually it takes much longer to process the acceptance of it, but also to come to a point of compromising with that. It could be a child who has died. It could be a husband who has died. You'll see that they are coming back into the flow is much more difficult. If they are still childbearing, they might not have another child because they fear it will happen again. They need to be helped to walk through that. If it's a young woman, if a young man, they may not want to marry again because, how about if it happens again? So they need a lot more support going through that. Then, of course, there are some of those practices we have. Let's allow them to happen as well.
That is part of grief.
It's part of grief. Govahembe, kokokunetika, that's okay. Some don't even want these graves marked. You know, it's such a common thing. There are places where you go and you know, this looks like a grave, but it's not. Find that in rural areas. Some graves in town are never marked. No one ever visits that. That person was a human being you lived with. If you really look through it, they brought something into your life. The fact that they took their life doesn't remove the good times you had. Doesn't remove the good person, for that matter, that they were. So it's okay for your own sanity, for your own healing, to be able to celebrate the time that you had with that person. So if it means for you to put a tombstone is a tombstone. There's no tombstone that says, hey, here's Leonard's grave, he took his own life. It's not. You just put my name. You may not have so many words to put, but that's okay. Remember, someone someday will say, you said we had a brother. I saw their picture. Where did they go to? You can go and show those children, those grandchildren, that, oh, this is your brother, this is your father, this is your mother. And that way they also relate or deal with the absence of a loved one they never met. Because we do grieve over people we never saw.
That's true.
Because through those we saw, we connected with, we have a relationship with them. So half of the support work here is around grief. The next one is preventing.
Okay.
Where therefore relationships need to start going differently. Let's get connected. With those who remain, let's get to know each other. Let's create safe spaces to share challenges, troubles. And let's be in a habit of going for those quiet moments, self-care with a counselor. You don't need to come to a counselor because you've got a problem to solve. But hey, I'm just running through a lot of issues here. can I work through them with you? It's okay to do that. It helps to prevent then deteriorating to a place where you want to take your life. We remove people from the pathway to depression to a place where they're just concerned about life, not even anxious. When we know, this happened before, so what do we do now? Let's be available for each other. Let's be each other's keeper, brother's keeper, so to speak, by watching out what's Leonard doing, what is he not doing now, what are the changes that are happening. Unless we invest our lives into each other, we're not going to be able to tell the differences when they come.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Makoni, for that sharing. You know, I really appreciated the coming into a community where we stand to support each other. I remember when I was talking to someone that had lost their husband, it wasn't by suicide, but it was loss, grief that they were going through. And they indicated that people from the church and some of her friends, they took turns to come to a house where they would sleep over. That is the support that even someone that has gone through suicide requires, because they're feeling alone, they're feeling isolated, and they're feeling rejected by the community and by the person that has passed away. Let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Thank you. Welcome back to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. Dr. Makoni, from your sharing, where we're looking at some of the rather issues surrounding death of someone by suicide, one of the practices that is there is that, as you rightfully mentioned, someone does not pass through the house, their clothes are not even distributed like a normal death. I have, just by listening from different people, you know, that have also gone through the same ordeal, it is indicated that it's a deterrent, a negative deterrent that is put in place to ensure that people do not commit suicide. Where one sees that and they see, if I do commit this, I will not be honored in any way. My body will be treated like this. Are there any other positive deterrents that even the society are able to use such that, you know, people do not push themselves or get into committing death by suicide?
I believe it's an opportunity to open up conversations.
Okay.
Let's not be silent around the issues of suicide. And when there's death by suicide, the preachers, the leaders, community leaders, it's important to speak through the issues as honestly and as factually as possible. That helps people to understand when I choose that pathway, it has an impact on others. But also, if I'm inclined to be in the state of ideation, no, there is an option. There are people I can work with. So I think it's a place of educating each other. Therefore, you know, the few times that I'm allowed to speak to congregants, because I do end-of-life coaching, I make it a point that, guys, let's not be afraid of death, and death is coming. We are born, what remains is death. And people are kind of uncomfortable, but now they know that's what Leonard does. And I've seen people coming through, I'm struggling with. So let's not pretend as if death is not coming. And let's therefore not pretend as if suicide is not part of how people may choose to die. I would recommend churches, communities, schools, because it's happening all over the place. If the 12-year-old who died in Highfield, that school had taken that opportunity to bring in someone who speaks to groups of children about suicide, about death, about its impact. It's not a deterrent, but it's a motivation for life. But it also brings somebody who says, I'm considering, but you know what, there's this consideration. So education, psychoeducation as they call it, is very important. But also creating those grief-safe spaces. Grief in this case is end-of-life issues. How can we talk about them? So that people may consider the realities, the truth of an alternative. And again, this is from 0 to 90. People who are losing jobs, people who are getting into, as we inappropriately call it, empty nest settings. All these are places where people don't see a way out because I had shaped my life in this way. and they need a place to open up, to be able to share their fears, their stories, and that way we are able to curb some of the situations which could end in death.
Dr. Makoni, thank you so much for sitting in with me and talking about a deep and heavy subject for families, for communities, societies, and even the whole nation of Zimbabwe. Viewers, we grieve not because we are weak, we grieve because we love. And that place where there was love, there's now a void. And where we are talking about death by suicide, it hits so much harder. How can you support the person in your community that is undergoing this? How can you support your friend, your relative, or someone that you know? We're all human at the end of the day, and we need that human connection for us to be able to walk through the difficult situations that we encounter in life. Do join me in the next episode, but in the meantime, let's continue on this. Thank you.